A group of rowdy bikers at a California gas station picked the wrong person to hassle when they decided to mess with a sophisticated older lady. Little did they know, she was Patricia Taylor, the mother of the renowned Hollywood star, Keanu Reeves. On a crisp morning in California, excitement filled the air as Keanu Reeves steered his sleek, red Ferrari out of Los Angeles. Beside him sat his mother, Patricia Taylor, both elegantly dressed for a charity gala. The morning sun reflected brilliantly off the car, creating a dazzling spectacle as they made their way through the thinning city traffic. Inside the luxurious Ferrari, the leather seats provided a cozy setting for the mother-son duo to chat about the day's events. Patricia, with eyes full of excitement, mentioned to Keanu, "I'm really looking forward to the gala, especially since it supports veterans and their families left behind by the military. It's heartwarming to see such unity for a noble cause." Keanu, his hands relaxed on the steering wheel, replied, "Absolutely, Mom. The guest list is quite impressive. There are several well-known philanthropists and fellow actors who are just as passionate about the cause." As they continued their journey, Patricia noticed a red alert on the GPS indicating heavy traffic ahead. "Oh no," she said, leaning closer to the screen. "It looks like there's a big jam up ahead on the highway." Keanu, slightly frowning, pondered their options. "There's a scenic detour through some back roads that could save us from getting stuck. It's longer but more picturesque." Patricia, thinking it over, agreed. "That sounds like a plan. We still have plenty of time, and being punctual is crucial for such events." Keanu glanced at the fuel gauge, noticing it was lower than he preferred for an unplanned detour. "The only issue is we might not find many places to refuel on that route since we're running low on gas." After a brief discussion, they opted for the scenic route. "You're right," Keanu said, as he smoothly changed lanes to exit the highway. "It's better than being stuck in traffic." They exited onto a lesser-known road that led towards the mountains. As the cityscape faded, the surroundings became rugged and the air fresher. Patricia admired the view, remarking, "It's so beautiful here, Keanu. Sometimes I forget how stunning California is beyond the city limits." Keanu smiled, enjoying the peaceful drive and his mother's company. "It is beautiful, and it's nice to share this time with you before the gala." Their conversation covered various topics, including Keanu's upcoming projects and shared interests in philanthropy. But as they ventured deeper into the remote area, Keanu kept a vigilant eye on the dwindling fuel gauge. "We'll need to stop for gas soon," he told his mother, looking for any signs of a service station. Patricia nodded, trusting her son's judgment. "Of course, dear. Hopefully, we'll come across a station soon." Eventually, a sign for a gas station appeared, much to their relief. As they pulled in, the station looked dated, with its weather-beaten pumps under the morning sun. Keanu parked the Ferrari, noting the stark contrast between the car's gleam and the station's time-worn charm. As he examined the fuel options, a frown formed. "They only have mid-grade fuel," he noted, concern in his tone. Patricia, practical as ever, responded, "Well, it's not ideal, but it'll have to do. We can't risk being late, and who knows when the next station might be." As Keanu started refueling, Patricia walked to the store to pay and grab some drinks. That's when she noticed two bikers near the entrance. Their leering gazes felt unwelcome as one remarked smugly, "Well, well, what do we have here?" His companion, mocking her with a sneer, added, "Hey, rich lady, gonna share what's in that pretty wallet, or do we need to help ourselves?" Despite the chill down her spine, Patricia maintained her composure, avoiding eye contact as she entered the store. Inside, the cool air contrasted sharply with her growing unease. She heard the cashier's reassurance, "Don't worry, those guys are all bark and no bite." However, as she left the store, the tension escalated. One biker grabbed her arm, sneering, "Not so high and mighty now, are you?" At that moment, Keanu's voice shattered the tension. "Hey! Let her go now." The bikers, startled by his sudden appearance, momentarily loosened their grip, giving Patricia the chance to break free. As Keanu approached, his presence alone shifted the atmosphere, his anger palpable yet controlled, ensuring his mother's safety amidst the unforeseen threat. And Keanu's intervention was swift. His hand moved faster than the eye could follow, blocking the biker's aggressive swing aimed at Patricia's face. With the precision that only a seasoned action star could muster, he intercepted the attack, grabbing the biker's arm mid-swing. In a fluid motion that spoke of years of martial arts training, Keanu used the biker's own momentum against him. With a quick twist and pivot, the burly man suddenly found himself face down on the asphalt, his arm painfully wrenched behind his back. The second biker, caught off guard by Keanu's swift and effective response, froze in place. Above them, unnoticed in the heat of the moment, the gas station's security camera whirred quietly, its lens capturing every detail of the confrontation. As Keanu held down the first biker, his attention shifted to a new threat. A third biker, stocky, with a shaved head and a prominent scar running from temple to jaw, had taken advantage of the distraction. He had sneaked over to the unlocked Ferrari and now stood triumphantly, clutching Patricia's purse. "Well, well," the scarred biker called out, his voice oozing malice. "Looks like we've got ourselves a real-life action hero. But can you save the day when we've got your mommy's bag?" He dangled the purse tauntingly, his cruel grin splitting his face. "How about this, big shot? You and the old lady bow down and apologize to our mate here, and maybe we'll give it back." He left the threat hanging in the air, his intentions clear. Keanu's mind raced, assessing the situation. He knew he could handle these men in a fight, but with his mother present, he was reluctant to escalate the violence further. The purse contained more than just money. It held irreplaceable family photos, important documents, and sentimental items precious to Patricia. As the tension mounted, the air grew thick with the promise of violence. The fallen biker struggled beneath Keanu's hold, spitting curses into the dust. The second biker, now regaining his composure, eyed Keanu warily, clearly trying to decide whether to intervene. Meanwhile, by the Ferrari, the scarred biker continued to taunt them, reveling in what he perceived as his moment of power. Patricia stood frozen, her eyes darting between her son and her captured purse. She wanted to tell Keanu to let it go, that no possession was worth his safety, but the words caught in her throat. She could see the determination in his eyes, the set of his jaw telling her he wasn't about to back down. For a moment, time seemed to stand still under the merciless California sun. The heat added to the pressure of the moment, and the distant sound of a car on the main road was a reminder of their isolation. Keanu knew he had to act fast. As he prepared to make his move, he was acutely aware of the potential consequences. With his mother's safety his primary concern, he began to formulate a plan, never taking his eyes off the scarred biker and the purse that had become the focal point of the tense standoff. The tension at the gas station had reached a fever pitch. The three bikers, emboldened by their perceived upper hand, began to laugh raucously at their cruel joke. "Come on, big shot," the scarred biker taunted, waving Patricia's purse in the air. "Let's see you and Mommy Dearest get down on your knees. Maybe if you beg real nice, we'll let you keep some of the cash." His companions joined in, their laughter echoing across the deserted forecourt. Caught up in their triumph, they failed to notice the subtle shift in Keanu's posture, the way his eyes narrowed as he assessed the situation. In that moment of distraction, Keanu saw his opportunity. With a burst of speed that belied his years of action movie training, he released his hold on the fallen biker and lunged towards the one holding the purse. The scarred biker's eyes widened in surprise, his laughter cutting off abruptly as Keanu closed the distance in mere seconds. Before the biker could react, Keanu had him in a precise hold, One arm locked around his neck while the other twisted the wrist of the hand holding the purse. The move, executed with such skill and speed, looked almost effortless, a testament to Keanu's years of martial arts training. "Drop it," Keanu growled, his voice low and dangerous. Caught off guard and suddenly finding himself in a very vulnerable position, the biker let out a strangled gasp. The purse slipped from his fingers, landing with a soft thud on the cracked concrete. Patricia, seizing the moment, darted forward and snatched up her purse, clutching it to her chest as she retreated to a safer distance. The other two bikers, realizing their advantage had evaporated, began to move towards Keanu, but he was ready for them. Still maintaining his hold on the scarred biker, he called out, his voice calm but carrying an unmistakable edge of authority. "I wouldn't if I were you," he said, nodding towards something above their heads. All eyes followed his gaze to a small, blinking red light mounted on the corner of the gas station building. "CCTV," Keanu explained, his tone matter-of-fact. "It's been recording this whole time. How do you think the police will react when they see three grown men with an insignia harassing an elderly woman and attempting robbery?" The bikers froze, the implications of Keanu's words sinking in. Their expressions shifted from anger to uncertainty, and finally to a grudging realization that they had severely underestimated their intended victims. Slowly, carefully, Keanu released his hold on the scarred biker, pushing him away as he stepped back to stand protectively in front of his mother. The three men regrouped, exchanging glances that spoke volumes about their deflated bravado. For a moment, silence reigned over the gas station, the only sounds the distant traffic on the main road and the soft whirring of the security camera above. Then, the heavy-set biker, the one who had first grabbed Patricia, broke the silence. "Just because you're a celebrity doesn't mean there won't be consequences," he snarled, his voice dripping with malice. "You might think you're safe now, but remember, we know what you look like, and we know what car you drive." His companions nodded in agreement, their eyes glinting with barely suppressed rage. The threat hung in the air, as palpable as the heat shimmering off the asphalt. Keanu, however, remained unruffled. He met their glares with a steady gaze of his own, his posture relaxed but ready. "I think it's time for all of us to go our separate ways," he said calmly. "We can all forget this ever happened, or we can let the authorities sort it out. Your choice." The bikers hesitated, clearly torn between their desire for revenge and the very real possibility of legal consequences. The morning sun glinted off their motorcycle handles as they shifted uneasily, the metal seeming to under the tension of the moment. Finally, after what felt like an eternity, the scarred biker spat on the ground and turned away. "Come on, boys," he muttered. "This isn't worth the hassle anymore." His companions followed suit, shooting dark looks at Keanu and Patricia as they mounted their motorcycles. The roar of engines filled the air as they kicked their bikes to life, a sound that was both a relief and a lingering threat. Keanu waited until they had ridden out of the gas station before turning to his mother. "Are you okay?" he asked softly, his eyes scanning her for any signs of injury. Patricia nodded, her hands still clutching her purse tightly. "I'm fine, thanks to you," she said, her voice shaky but grateful. "But Keanu, those men, they're threatening us," Patricia fretted, her anxiety palpable. "Don't worry about that now," Keanu assured her, his voice gentle as he guided her towards the Ferrari. "Let's get back on the road. We're already running late for the gala." As they settled into the car, Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that their confrontation with the bikers wasn't truly over. He started the engine, its powerful purr a comforting sound after the tension of the last few minutes. As they pulled away from the gas station, Keanu kept a vigilant eye on the rearview mirror. His suspicions were confirmed when he spotted three familiar silhouettes in the distance, following them at a discreet but unmistakable distance. It seemed the bikers weren't ready to let this go just yet. As the Ferrari accelerated onto the main road, Keanu's mind was a whirlwind of strategy, trying to formulate a plan that would ensure his mother's safety and bring this dangerous game to an end. The urge to stop and confront the bikers tugged at him, a temptation born from years of playing action heroes who never backed down from a fight. But the presence of his mother in the passenger seat required a more cautious approach. This wasn't a movie set. There were no choreographed stunts or safety measures here. This was real life, and the stakes were far too high for reckless actions. The road ahead stretched before them, a ribbon of asphalt cutting through the rugged California landscape. Each curve presented both a challenge and an opportunity, a chance to put distance between them and their pursuers, but also a potential trap if navigated poorly. Patricia's voice cut through Keanu's thoughts, tight with barely contained anxiety. "Keanu, please be careful," she urged, her eyes fixed on the side mirror. "They're still back there. Every time we slow down for a curve, they seem to get closer." Keanu glanced in his rearview mirror, confirming his mother's observation. The bikers were maintaining a steady pursuit, their motorcycles appearing larger each time the Ferrari had to reduce speed for a particularly sharp bend. He could see the determination in their postures, the way they leaned into each turn with practiced ease. These men were not going to give up easily. "Don't worry, Mom," Keanu said, his voice calm despite the tension coursing through him. "I've got this under control." He focused on the road ahead, his hands steady on the wheel as he guided the Ferrari through another curve with precision. As they neared Lake Arrowhead, Keanu began to explain his plan to Patricia. "Once we get to the hotel, they'll probably back off," he said, his eyes flicking between the road and the rearview mirror. "They won't want to cause a scene in a crowded, high-security area." Patricia nodded, but her grip on the door handle remained tight. "And what if they don't leave us alone?" she asked, voicing the concern that had been gnawing at both of them. Keanu's expression hardened slightly. "If they don't," he said, his voice taking on a determined edge, "I'll need to drop you off at the hotel to ensure your safety. Then I'll handle the situation with our pursuers." Patricia opened her mouth to protest, but the words died on her lips as the Sierra Heights Resort came into view. The modern architecture of the hotel rose impressively against the mountain backdrop, a beacon of civilization after their harrowing journey. As they approached the resort, Keanu noticed the bikers finally hanging back. When they entered the hotel area, passing through a security checkpoint, the bikers stopped a short distance away, just outside the hotel's perimeter. A wave of relief swept over both Keanu and Patricia, but it was tempered by the lingering knowledge that the bikers, though at a distance, still posed a clear threat as they continued to watch them. As they pulled up to the hotel's grand entrance, with valet and staff bustling around in preparation for the charity gala, Keanu couldn't shake the feeling that this confrontation was far from over. The afternoon sun caught the hotel's glass facade, creating a momentary glare that seemed to undo the precarious nature of their situation. As a valet approached to take the Ferrari, Keanu made a quick assessment. These men wouldn't simply leave, and their presence threatened not just his family but everyone attending the event. He turned to Patricia, his decision made. "Mom, I need you to go inside and inform the organizers that I'll be delayed," he said, his voice low but firm. "I have to deal with this situation before it escalates further." Patricia hesitated, her eyes wide with concern. "Keanu, please," she urged. "Just come inside with me. Leave those men alone. We're safe here." But Keanu shook his head, his resolve clear in the firm set of his jaw. "I can't do that, Mom. As long as they're out there, no one is truly safe. I need to end this now," he insisted firmly. Patricia looked at her son, seeing not just the famous actor, but the determined, principled man she had raised. She knew that once Keanu set his mind to something, especially when it involved protecting others, there was no dissuading him. With a mix of pride and worry in her eyes, she nodded her understanding. As Patricia stepped out of the car, her elegant attire contrasting with the tension in her posture, Keanu prepared himself for what was to come. He watched his mother enter the hotel, ensuring she was safely inside before turning his attention back to the distant figures of the bikers. Taking a deep breath, Keanu put the Ferrari into gear, ready to confront the men on his own terms. He drove towards the exit, leaving the safety of the hotel behind. He knew he was taking a risk, but it was a calculated one, born from years of experience both on and off the screen. The Ferrari's engine purred as Keanu neared the security portal, his gaze fixed on the bikers who were closing in behind him. After passing the security checkpoint, he merged onto the roadside and rolled down the window, letting the rush of mountain air hit his face. Catching their attention, he threw them a deliberate wink and a challenge. "Let's settle this now. What, you want to fight?" One of the bikers grinned, cracking his knuckles, eager for a confrontation. "There's plenty of space in this area for that," the biker taunted. But Keanu's response was unexpected. "Who said anything about fighting? You've got bikes. I've got my sports car. We race." His voice exuded confidence rather than aggression, catching the bikers off guard. As they approached his car, their mocking expressions shifted to thoughtful consideration. Keanu could almost see the gears turning in their minds, weighing the challenge he just presented. Finally, the biggest of the group, the scarred biker, spoke up. "All right, movie star," he sneered, a spark of competition in his eyes. "You want to settle this? Let's make it interesting. First one to reach that White House up there on the mountainside wins." Keanu's eyes followed the biker's gesture, spotting the prominent house perched on the slope above. He quickly assessed the route, his mind already plotting the best way to navigate the winding road. "And what are the stakes?" Keanu asked, his tone level but challenging. The biker grinned wide, revealing a set of yellowed teeth. "If we win, you bow down, apologize for disrespecting us, and pay up. If you win, well, we'll leave you and your mommy alone for good." Keanu considered the proposal for a moment. It was risky, but it also presented an opportunity to end this confrontation once and for all, without violence. He glanced at his Ferrari, the powerful machine humming with potential energy, ready to spring into action at his command. With a nod, Keanu accepted the challenge. "You're on," he said, his voice carrying a quiet confidence that seemed to unnerve the bikers slightly. As the bikers revved their engines, preparing for the race, Keanu took a deep breath. He knew what he was about to do was dangerous, possibly even foolish, but he also knew that sometimes the only way to confront a threat was head-on. The mountain road stretched out before them, a gauntlet of curves and straightaways that would test both skill and nerve. As Keanu gripped the steering wheel, he sent a silent apology to his mother for the worry he was about to cause her. Then, with a roar of engines, the race began. The Ferrari and the motorcycles launched forward into what would prove to be a pivotal confrontation. The Ferrari's engine roared to life as Keanu floored the accelerator, the powerful car surging forward with a burst of speed that momentarily left the bikers in his wake. The afternoon sun glinted off the car's polished surface as it tore along the winding mountain road, the scenery blurring into a kaleidoscope of greens and browns. But the bikers were not to be outdone. Their motorcycles, lighter and more maneuverable than the Ferrari, quickly caught up. They swerved aggressively on both sides of Keanu's car, their machines deftly navigating the curves with a recklessness born of familiarity with the terrain. Dust kicked up from their wheels, creating a swirling cloud that threatened to obscure Keanu's vision. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his years of stunt driving experience coming into play as he expertly guided the Ferrari through each turn. The car hugged the road, its superior handling allowing Keanu to maintain control even as the bikers tried to force him into a mistake. As they approached a particularly sharp bend, Keanu couldn't help but think that if only he had the 91-octane fuel the car preferred, its performance would be optimal for the turbo engine. The mid-grade fuel from the earlier pit stop was adequate, but in a high-stakes race like this, every little advantage counted. The race remained incredibly close as they neared the White House that marked their finish line. Keanu's Ferrari matched the biker's move for move, his driving skill evident in each precise turn. The biker's expressions began to shift from confidence to frustration as they struggled to gain a significant lead over the celebrity they'd chosen to harass. In the final stretch, with the White House looming larger with each passing second, Keanu made a bold move. Seeing a narrow gap between the two lead bikers, he gunned the engine and slipped between them. The Ferrari's sleek body barely clearing their handlebars, the bikers, caught off guard by the audacious maneuver, momentarily lost their rhythm. It was all the advantage Keanu needed. He pushed the Ferrari to its limits, the engine screaming as he ate up the final distance to the finish line. As they approached the White House, it was clear that the race would be decided by mere inches. The bikers, realizing their victory was slipping away, made a desperate final push. Their front wheels edged slightly ahead of the Ferrari's hood as they all screeched to a halt in front of the house, the smell of hot engines and brake dust filling the air. For a moment, silence reigned as the dust settled around them. Then the bikers erupted into raucous cheers, claiming victory based on their marginal lead at the finish. Their voices were loud with false bravado, a stark contrast to the quiet intensity that radiated from Keanu as he stepped out of the Ferrari. "We won! We beat the big-shot movie star," they crowed, their earlier intimidation transforming into mockery. Keanu stepped out of the Ferrari, his expression calm despite the narrow loss. As the bikers continued their celebration, his eyes were drawn to the house itself. Something about it nagged at his attention, a detail that seemed out of place in this remote mountain location. As he approached the front door, realization dawned on him. The door bore the same biker gang insignia he'd recognized on their vests earlier at the gas station. The implications of this discovery raced through Keanu's mind, setting the stage for further developments in this unfolding drama. Keanu maintained a neutral expression as the bikers turned their attention back to him. "All right, movie star," the lead biker sneered, still elated from their perceived victory. "Time to pay up. Get down on your knees and apologize for disrespecting us, and don't forget the cash. We know you can afford it." His companion's laughter echoed across the mountainside, adding, "Yeah, let's see the great Keanu Reeves bow down to some real men." However, Keanu ignored their taunts. He walked purposefully toward the front door, his mind swiftly assembling the pieces of the situation he found himself in. As he moved, the bikers' laughter faltered, uncertainty creeping into their voices. "Hey, where do you think you're going?" one called out, a hint of doubt in his tone. "There's nothing in there for you, just more of us." Reaching for the door handle, Keanu was aware of the significant risk he was taking, yet he sensed that behind this door lay the key to resolving the confrontation once and for all. With a deep breath, he knocked on the door, ready to face whatever, or whoever, awaited him inside. The bikers fell silent as the door swung open, their expressions shifting to confusion and growing unease. It was evident they hadn't anticipated Keanu's bold move to willingly approach their turf. The door opened, revealing a man with an air of authority whose stern expression quickly softened into one of genuine warmth and surprise. "Derek," Keanu greeted with a smile, "long time no see. I was worried you wouldn't be here when I saw the insignia outside. I remembered you, but it's been ages." Derek stepped forward, embracing Keanu warmly. "Keanu, what in the world are you doing here?" His voice mixed joy with confusion. After returning the hug, Keanu stepped back, gesturing towards the door. "I believe these three belong to you," he said, his tone light but with an underlying seriousness. Derek's expression darkened as he glanced past Keanu to the three bikers, who now hovered uncertainly in the doorway. Their initial bravado had evaporated, replaced by dawning horror as they realized the gravity of their mistake. "Get in here now," Derek commanded, his voice bearing the unmistakable tone of a leader. The bikers shuffled inside, their eyes downcast, avoiding Derek's piercing gaze. Keanu followed them into the dimly lit interior of the clubhouse, a stark contrast to the bright afternoon sun outside. As his eyes adjusted, he saw other club members gathering, drawn by the commotion. The main room, adorned with military memorabilia and club history, set the stage for the unfolding events. Derek turned to Keanu, concern and anger evident on his face. "What happened, brother? What did these idiots do?" Keanu recounted the day's events calmly, the harassment at the gas station, the chase, and the race that led them here. As he spoke, the other club members' expressions hardened, their disapproval of their wayward brother's actions evident. When Keanu finished, Derek's face was a mask of barely contained fury. He turned to the three offenders. "Crusher, Crow, Bull." His voice was low and dangerous. "Is this true?" The bikers, their confidence shattered, mumbled incoherent excuses, attempting to pass off the incident as a friendly race, a bit of harmless fun. But their weak explanations fell flat against Keanu's factual account. "Enough!" Derek snapped, cutting through their stammering. "Do you take me for a fool? Do you have any idea who this man is? Do you know what he's done for this club?" The other members murmured in agreement, and Keanu felt their eyes on him, filled with respect and gratitude. Derek continued, his voice rising with each word. "Years ago, when this club was on the verge of financial collapse, it was Keanu who stepped in. His generous donations saved us, kept this place running, kept our brothers off the streets, and gave them a purpose." He swept the room with his gaze, meeting the eyes of his fellow veterans. "He's been a quiet benefactor, never asking for recognition, always there when we needed help." The three offenders seemed to shrink under the weight of this revelation, the full impact of their actions finally sinking in. Crusher, the largest of the three, found his voice first. We didn't know," he mumbled, his earlier bravado gone. "Ignorance is no excuse," Derek snapped. "You violated everything this club stands for. Harassing an elderly woman, threatening a man who's done nothing but help us. That's not what we're about, and you know it." The silence that followed was deafening. The other club members looked on, their faces a mix of disappointment and anger. Keanu stood quietly, his presence a reminder of the club's higher purpose and the bonds of brotherhood that should have prevented such behavior. Derek took a deep breath, his decision clear. "You know the rules," he said, his voice carrying the weight of final judgment. "Your actions have consequences. Hand over your patches and club insignia. You're out." The three men paled, the reality of their situation hitting them hard. Being expelled from the club meant losing more than just a hobby. It meant losing a family. "Please," Crow pleaded, his voice barely above a whisper. "Give us another chance. We'll make it right." But Derek's response was unwavering. "You know the rules very well, and you intentionally broke them. There are no second chances for this kind of behavior," he stated firmly. With trembling hands, Crusher, Crow, and Bull removed their patches, placing them on a wooden table worn smooth by years of use. The sound of Velcro tearing seemed to echo in the silent room, marking a final, ignominious end to their membership. As the three former members made their way to the exit, their shoulders slumped in defeat, Derek turned to Keanu. The anger had faded from his face, replaced by genuine warmth and gratitude. "I'm sorry you had to go through that, brother," he said, clapping Keanu on the shoulder. "But I'm glad it brought you here. It's been too long. How about you stay for a drink? Catch up with the old crew?" Keanu glanced at his watch, thinking of the charity gala and his mother waiting at the hotel, But as he looked around the room at the faces of the veterans he'd helped over the years, he felt a pull stronger than any social obligation. With a smile, he nodded. "You know what? I'd like that. Let me just make a quick call." Keanu pulled out his phone and moved to a quiet corner of the clubhouse. The wood-paneled walls and vintage photographs created a backdrop far different from the luxury hotel he'd originally planned to attend. As he dialed his mother's number, he couldn't help but feel a twinge of guilt for changing their plans so dramatically. Patricia answered on the second ring, her voice tinged with concern. "Keanu, is everything all right?" she asked. Keanu quickly assured her, "Everything's fine, Mom." He then launched into an explanation of the unexpected reunion with Derek and the Veterans Club, and his decision to stay. As he spoke, Keanu could almost see his mother's expression softening, her initial worry giving way to understanding. Patricia, well established in philanthropic circles herself, knew the value of these genuine connections. "Oh, Keanu," she said warmly when he finished, "I completely understand. You stay there and spend time with those brave men. I can handle the gala on my own." As he ended the call with his mother, assuring her he was safe and explaining his decision to stay, Keanu felt a sense of peace settle over him. The day had taken an unexpected turn, but sometimes, he reflected, the most meaningful connections are forged in the crucible of adversity. The atmosphere in the clubhouse began to shift. The tension of the confrontation gave way to a sense of camaraderie and reunion. Old friends approached Keanu, eager to shake his hand and share stories of how his support had changed their lives. In that moment, surrounded by men who had served their country and found a second family in this club, Keanu knew he'd made the right choice. This, he realized, was where he was meant to be today, not at a glittering gala, but here among real people whose lives he'd touched in meaningful ways. The late afternoon light filtered through the dusty windows of the clubhouse, casting long shadows across the main room. The walls, adorned with military memorabilia and photographs chronicling the club's history, seemed to come alive with stories of service, brotherhood, and honor. Derek stood before the gathered members, his posture straight and commanding, reminiscent of his days in military service. The room fell silent as he addressed the group, his voice carrying the weight of both disappointment and resolve. "Brothers," he began, his eyes sweeping across the faces of his fellow veterans, "today we were reminded of the core principles that bind us together. Principles that some of us," he paused, his gaze lingering on the empty spaces where Crusher, Crow, and Bull had stood, seemed to have forgotten. The assembled members nodded solemnly, their expressions a mix of agreement and regret for their former brother's actions. Keanu stood quietly among them, feeling both an outsider and an integral part of this tight-knit community. Derek continued, his voice gaining strength as he spoke. "This club was founded on the values we held dear during our service: honor, respect, and the unwavering support of our brothers and sisters in arms. What happened today was a disgrace to everything we stand for." He turned to Keanu, gesturing for him to step forward. "Our brother Keanu here, who has supported us silently for years, was subjected to harassment and threats. And worse, these actions were directed not just at him, but at an elderly woman, his mother." A murmur of disapproval rippled through the crowd. Derek's eyes flashed with barely contained fury as he detailed the events that had transpired. They violated our most basic tenets: respect for others, especially those who have supported us, and protection of the vulnerable. Their actions reflect poorly on all of us and everything we've built here. As Derek spoke, Keanu could see the impact of his words on the faces around him. Some looked angry, others ashamed that members of their club could have acted in such a way. But in all of them, there was a resolve to uphold the values that Derek was reaffirming. "Let this serve as a reminder to all of us," Derek continued, his voice softening slightly. "We are more than just a club. We are a family, bound by shared experiences and a commitment to being better men than we were yesterday. We owe it to ourselves, to each other, and to supporters like Keanu, to live up to those ideals every day." As Derek's words faded, a respectful silence fell over the room. The weight of the day's events and the reaffirmation of their values seemed to settle on everyone's shoulders. It was a moment of collective reflection, a recommitment to the principles that had brought them together in the first place. After a moment, Derek's expression softened, and he turned to Keanu with a warm smile. "Now, brother, I believe we owe you a drink and some long overdue catching up." The tension in the room began to dissipate as members moved to greet Keanu personally. Some shook his hand vigorously, while others offered heartfelt thanks for his years of support. The atmosphere shifted from one of solemn judgment to warm camaraderie as Keanu mingled with the veterans, drawn into conversations about their lives, their struggles, and their triumphs. One member, a grizzled older man with a pronounced limp, approached him with tears in his eyes. "Mr. Reeves," he said, his voice gruff with emotion, "I don't know if you remember, but 5 years ago, your donation helped fund my knee surgery. I was in a bad way then, couldn't work, was close to losing everything. That surgery gave me my life back. I've never had the chance to thank you properly."